Let me start the chapter States of Matter. This is one of the chapters in the first year intermediate. Now, let me discuss about this particular chapter. Now, let me start the chapter with a small question. How many states of matter do you know? Actually, in your lower classes, maybe in the 9th or 10th standard, or even in the 8th standard, you might have studied about states of matter. So, how many states of matter do you know? Okay, there are roughly 5 different states of matter. First one, gas. Second one, liquid. And third one, solid. Fourth one, plasma. And the fifth one, Bose-Einstein condensate. Okay, these are the important states of matter. And in the intermediate syllabus, for all competitive exams, NEET, JEE Mains, JEE Advanced, we need not study about plasma and BIC. Those 2 states of matter, they are not in the syllabus. So, we will study about gases, liquids and solids only. Okay. If you come to plasma, do you know what is plasma? What are the characteristics of plasma? Plasma is nothing but an ionized gas. And you please differentiate. This plasma is not the same plasma which you study in biology. You all know the liquid part of the blood is also called as plasma. So that is different. This is different. This plasma means an ionized gas. Although in our environment where we live actually, this plasma is very rare. We don't come across this state of matter. But if you take the universe as a whole, this plasma is the most common state of matter. It is even greater than gas, solid or liquid. But if you take the universe as a whole. But if you see the environment in which we live, then it is very rare. Okay. So now, first in this chapter, let me differentiate solids, liquids and gases. Let me tell you the differences between these 3. Then I will move on to the discussion about gases, particularly gases. Okay. So first if you see the difference. So here let me write down gas and here liquid and here solid. So let me give you the differences in a tabular form. Actually, between these 3 states of matter, there are 2 main differences. Okay. All of you, you have an idea already. In gas, the molecules move randomly. Gases do not have their own shape, they do not have their own volume. So, you know the fundamentals of these 3 states of matter. If you come to the solid on the other extreme, it has its own volume, it has its own shape. Extreme cases, gas and solid, and in between there is liquid. And do you know why some particular compound is a gas at room temperature? For example, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a gas at room temperature. And on the other hand, suppose if you take iodine, it is a solid at room temperature. So, why CO2 is a gas and why iodine is a solid? And in between we have water, it is a liquid. So, what is responsible for this CO2 being a gas and that iodine being a solid and the water being a liquid? So what is the reason behind that? Okay, and actually here there are two things. Listen to me carefully. The first one is thermal energy. Energy possessed by a particular substance by virtue of its temperature. Thermal energy. At any temperature, each and every substance has some thermal energy. At higher temperature, its thermal energy is greater, and at lower temperature, its thermal energy is lesser. That is one thing. On the other hand, we have intermolecular attractions. Suppose if you take CO2, there are intermolecular attractions between CO2 and CO2. Suppose if you take water, there are intermolecular attractions between two water molecules, any two water molecules. Suppose if you go to iodine, there are intermolecular attractions between any two iodine molecules. So, in any substance, there are two important things which we have to see when you study about state of matter. One is thermal energy, second one is intermolecular attractions. So, if you come to thermal energy, because of the presence of that thermal energy, the particles in that substance, atoms, molecules, ions, so on, they try to move away from each other because of the thermal energy. They are highly energetic and they move away, they try to move away from each other. That is the tendency. And that tendency comes from the thermal energy. On the other hand, we have intermolecular attractions, and these intermolecular attractions, they try to keep the atoms or molecules together. So, these two are opposing. On the one hand, we have thermal energy, which is also called as disruptive force. That means because of that, molecules move away from each other. And opposite to that, we have intermolecular attractions. And these intermolecular attractions keep the particles in a substance together. So, whether a particular substance is solid or liquid or gas at a particular temperature, that is decided by two things, these two things. One is thermal energy and another one is intermolecular attraction, which is dominant. If intermolecular attraction is dominant, then the particular substance may be a liquid. If the intermolecular attraction is too great, then the particular state of matter is a solid. And if thermal energy is very high when compared to intermolecular attraction, then the substance will be a gas. So, it is the interplay between two factors. One is thermal energy, another one is intermolecular attractions. Okay. If you come to that first difference, let me write down that. Whatever I explained, let me write down that. Okay. Here in the gas, thermal energy is far greater than intermolecular attractions. This is about gas. Actually, about these intermolecular attractions, you will study in further chapters. There are so many types. There are so many types of intermolecular attractions: van der Waals attraction, hydrogen bonding, London forces, dipole-dipole interaction. But for the time being, you just take it for granted that in any substance, between any two molecules, there are attractions. Okay. Now, if you come to liquid, then in the liquid, this thermal energy is less than intermolecular attractions. So, intermolecular attractions in liquids, they are greater, stronger attractions. Okay, and if you come to solids, then this thermal energy is far less than intermolecular attractions. And this is the first fundamental difference between the three states of matter. Okay, and what is the consequence of this particular comparison? Okay, thermal energy is greater or intermolecular attraction is greater, and what are the consequences of this? Now, if you come to the gas first, thermal energy is very high when compared to intermolecular attraction. So, as a result, we have random motion of the particles, and you already know this. In a gas, the molecules move randomly from one place to another. Now, second consequence is no definite shape or volume. No definite shape and volume. Molecules are moving so randomly that they are not confined to a particular place. The walls of the vessel is the boundary of a gas, and the gas does not have its own boundary. If you provide 1 liter, yes, its volume is 1 liter. If you can provide 10 liters, that is the 10 liters is the volume of the gas. So you already know that gas occupies the volume available for it. So gas does not have its own boundaries. Boundaries of the vessel, they are the boundaries of the gas. No shape, no volume. So random movement. Because intermolecular attractions are very weak. They are unable to keep the particles together. Okay. Now, if you come to the liquid, then here also we have motion, random motion. But the random motion in the case of liquid is lesser than that in gas. Comparatively, the random motion is here restricted. And you all know that as a result, liquids, they do not have no definite shape, but liquids have definite volume. That means in liquids, the molecules are free to move in a particular range, in a given volume. They are free to move. So volume is fixed, but shape is not fixed. That means the free movement, the freedom to move, freedom for the molecules to move in a liquid is somewhat restricted. There is freedom, but they can move only in a particular range. So volume is fixed, but their volume is definite. Now, if you come to solids, then here thermal energy is very, very less when compared to intermolecular attractions. So these intermolecular attractions, they hold the molecules very strongly, and as a result, molecules are not moving at all. And here, you all know solids have no random motion here, the first thing. The particles in a solid, they generally they do not move from one place to another place, and they have definite shape, they have definite volume. So definite shape and volume. And this is the consequence of the comparison between the thermal energy and intermolecular attractions, whichever is greater. If the thermal energy is greater, yes, the molecules freely move, because intermolecular attractions are unable to hold them together. But if intermolecular attractions are greater, then yes, that results in formation of solid. Okay, at a given temperature, a particular substance is solid, another particular substance is liquid, and another particular substance is gas. And the reason behind this is thermal energy and intermolecular attractions, comparison between them. Okay, and one more point here, one more consequence you can say. Do you know that all of you, in a particular substance, maybe there are molecules, maybe there are atoms, maybe there are ions, whatever may be the constituent particles. So in a particular substance, there are 3 types of motion. The first one is translatory motion, translational motion, and second one is vibrational motion, and the third one is rotational motion. So there are 3 types of motion which these particles exhibit. Okay, let me briefly explain them. Suppose this is the molecule. If this molecule moves from one place to another place, that means its center of mass is moving. The center of mass of this particular particle is moving from one place to another place. Then it is called as translatory motion. and kinetic energy by virtue of that motion is called as translational kinetic energy. That is one thing, translational motion, where center of mass moves from one place to another place. Now second motion is vibrational. Vibrational motion is, suppose if you have a hydrogen molecule, hydrogen bond hydrogen. Now suppose these two are hydrogen atoms and between these two hydrogen atoms there is a bond. Now somewhere in the middle of the bond lies the center of mass of that hydrogen molecule. Now in vibrational motion, center of mass does not move, but these two hydrogen atoms, they come towards each other, then they move away, then again they come towards each other, then they move away. This is what is called as vibration. But in this vibrational motion, the center of mass does not change. It does not move. It is fixed. It is vibrational motion. And the third type of motion is rotational motion. Suppose the same hydrogen molecule you see, and between these two hydrogen atoms there is a bond, and in the middle of the bond lies the center of mass. Now this hydrogen molecule may rotate like this, but while during this rotation there is no movement of center of mass. Center of mass is fixed. Now it can move like this, it can rotate like this, it can rotate like this, along x-axis, along y-axis, along z-axis. So this is what is called as rotational motion. So we have three different types of motions. One is translational, where center of mass moves from one place to another place. Second one is vibrational. This is vibrational motion, where center of mass does not move. And third one is rotational motion. This is rotational motion. So three different types of motion. Suppose if you come to gases, then translational motion. Yes, that is present. That is what is meant by random motion. Here I already explained that. And if you come to liquids, this translational motion, yes, it is there. But compared to gases, it is somewhat restricted. That is the only difference. Now, if you come to solids, then generally there is no translational motion. Particles in a solid, they do not move from one place to another place. Their center of mass does not move. So, there is no translational motion. Now, if you come to vibrational motion, translational motion. If you come to vibrational motion, yes, that is there. That is there everywhere actually. It is there in liquids also, and it is there in solids also. In solids the particles vibrate, vibrational motion. Yes, it is present. Now, if you come to the third type, that is rotational motion. And this is also present in all the three states of matter. Now, actually these are the consequences. Shape, volume, motion from one place to another, vibrational motion, rotational motion, and all this. So these are the consequences of this thermal energy and intermolecular attractions. So this is our first difference, first fundamental difference between the three states of matter. So thermal energy versus intermolecular attractions. Now, if you come to the second fundamental difference, now that is intermolecular space. Actually, gases, if you come to the gases, they are highly compressible. Now, let me write down that one. The second fundamental difference is gases are highly compressible. And if you come to liquids, then they are less compressible. In fact, compressibility of liquids is very, very small, and solids still lesser. Solids are least compressible. Okay. What exactly is meant by that compressibility? It is nothing but when you apply pressure, if the volume of a particular substance changes, then we say it is compressible. By increasing pressure, can you decrease the volume of a gas? If it is yes, then it is compressible. If it is not, then it is not compressible. Now, you apply pressure on a solid, do you think its volume changes? Hardly changes. It hardly changes. Now, you apply pressure on a liquid, do you think it changes? It changes to a very small extent. Now, you do the same thing on a gas, you apply the pressure, increase the pressure, yes, there is a appreciable change in volume. And gases are highly compressible. On the other hand, liquids and solids, they are very less compressible. The reason is very simple, it is the intermolecular space. Actually here in gases, the intermolecular space is very high, intermolecular distance is very high. So as a result, when you increase the pressure, there is a scope for the molecules to come towards each other. So this is what is compressibility. Applying pressure, decreasing the volume. That is what is compressibility. So there is a scope for the volume of a gas to decrease because of the presence of intermolecular forces. And that scope is very less in the case of liquids because intermolecular distance is small. And that scope is least in the case of solids. So solids are least compressible. Now, this second difference, compressibility, that arises due to the presence of intermolecular space. Yeah, you can say intermolecular distance. You know, in gases, almost 99% of the space is vacant. So there is a large space to utilize. So when you increase the pressure, yes, gas can compress, gas can contract. But the intermolecular space in these two cases is very small. 99% of the space in liquids and solids, it is occupied. Less than 1% is only the vacant space. The scope is very less, so compressibility is very less. Okay. So one major difference is because of the interplay between thermal energy and intermolecular interactions. Let me repeat, thermal energy keeps the molecules away from each other. On the other hand, opposite, intermolecular attractions, they keep the molecules together. So whichever is dominating, depending upon that, the state of matter is decided, whether it is solid or liquid or gas. And second important difference is intermolecular space, and because of that, gases are highly compressible and solids are almost not compressible. So these are the differences between solids, liquids and gases. Now let me come to one particular state of matter, that is gases. We will study about liquids and solids separately in separate chapters. Now in this chapter we study about gases in detail. So gaseous state. And we have just seen some of the important fundamental properties of gases. One property is they are highly compressible. You apply the pressure, then the volume of the gas decreases. And second one is thermal energy is very high when compared to intermolecular attractions. And as a result, the molecules of a gas, they randomly move from one place to another place. Okay. So now let me continue with that background. Let me continue with the gases. Okay. Actually, there are four important parameters by which a gas is defined. One is volume, symbol V, volume of a gas. Now, second one is temperature. Sometimes we use capital T and sometimes small t. And I will tell you the difference later between those two. Now, third one is number of moles. Number of moles. Have you heard about that word mole? M-O-L-E. Do you know about that? Okay, let me explain that. I will explain briefly about the mole, don't worry. And the symbol for moles, number of moles is small n. And the last parameter is pressure of a gas. And all of you must have studied about pressure in physics in your lower classes. Pressure is the force per unit area. Okay. So these are the four parameters generally by which a gas is defined: pressure, moles, temperature and volume. Now let me briefly explain about these four parameters. Now if you come to volume, we have just discussed that gases do not have their own volumes. Gases do not have their own boundaries. Volume of the gas is the volume of the vessel in which it is taken. That's it. So volume of the vessel itself is the volume of the gas. And what are the units for volume? If you take SI system, it is meter cube. If it is CGS system, then it is centimeter cube. Decimeter cube. Decimeter cube is also called as 1 liter. Okay. So that is all about volume. Now let me come to the temperature. Now how do you define the temperature? Actually, we use temperature so many times in our daily life. Temperature high, temperature low. But how do you define temperature? Technically, how do you define temperature? Actually, temperature is defined as degree of coldness or hotness of a particular substance. This is how you can define temperature. You know, hotter substance, the temperature of hotter substance is higher compared to the temperature of the colder substance. So relatively, it is relative. Degree of coldness or hotness. That is what is temperature. Now you can also define temperature like this also. It is the property of a substance I already told you, there are four important parameters or properties, and one among them is temperature. So temperature of a substance, it is a property of a substance which determines the direction of heat flow, which determines the direction of heat flow when it is in contact with another substance. In contact with another substance. And it is a familiar property actually. You all know that when a hot body comes into contact with a cold body, relatively hot and cold, so the heat energy flows from hotter body to the colder body. So the substance at higher temperature and the substance at lower temperature, the heat energy flows from higher temperature to lower temperature. So temperature is the property which determines the direction of the flow, hotter to colder, higher temperature to lesser temperature. So either way you can define the temperature. Now what are the units of temperature? It depends actually on which scale you are measuring the temperature. There are three different scales. So first come to scale 1. For the timing, let me call it a scale 1, 2, 3, that's it. So come to the scale 1. So here, this scale is generally from 0 to 100, 0 to 100 units. And on this scale, 0 value, value 0 is taken as the temperature at which water freezes. Whatever may be the temperature at which the water freezes is taken to be 0 on this scale. And similarly 100, it is the temperature at which the water boils. It is also called as boiling point. So under normal conditions, under atmospheric pressure, the temperature at which water freezes, that is taken to be 0 on the scale. And the temperature at which water boils, that is taken to be 100 on the scale. And in between there are units 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, so on 100. And this scale 1 is called as, actually it used to be called as centigrade scale because it is from 0 to 100, but nowadays it is being called as Celsius scale. So the units of scale 1 is degree Celsius. It is called as either centigrade scale or Celsius scale, degree Celsius. Now if you come to scale 2, then on this scale, the temperature at which water freezes is taken as 32, and the temperature at which water boils, that is taken as 212. So this is the temperature at which water freezes. And this is the temperature at which water boils. And this particular scale is called as Fahrenheit scale. And the units of this particular scale is degree F. So degree Celsius, degree Fahrenheit. And the last scale, scale 3. And this is the most important scale. And here the temperatures, they are not taken in terms of water, where water boils, where water freezes. So it is not, this scale is not defined with respect to any particular substance, with reference to any particular substance. No. On this scale, the 0 is taken as the temperature that is lowest possible temperature. That means the temperature below that is not possible. That is taken as 0, lowest possible temperature. So it is not defined with respect to any substance. And one more thing, at this temperature, kinetic energy of any substance becomes 0. So on this scale, 0 is defined as the temperature at which there is no motion, there is no translatory motion, kinetic energy becomes completely 0, and that is the lowest possible temperature. Temperature below that is not possible. And this scale is called as Kelvin scale. And this symbol for this is capital K. So there are 3 scales. One is the Celsius scale, and second one is the Fahrenheit scale, and third one is the Kelvin scale. Now let me tell you the relation between these 3 scales. Although later on I will derive the relation, but for the time being just I am giving you the relation. Now if you come to degree Celsius and Kelvin, temperature in Kelvin, let me write it like this. Temperature in Kelvin scale. Generally when you express temperature in Kelvin, in terms of Kelvin, we use capital T. That is equal to temperature in degree Celsius plus 273 approximately. Now temperature in degree Celsius is equal to temperature in Fahrenheit minus 32 into 5 upon 9. So these are how the three scales are related to each other. So temperature in Kelvin scale, that means here the units of temperature is Kelvin, that is equal to temperature in degree Celsius plus 273. Temperature in degree Celsius is equal to temperature in Fahrenheit minus 32 into 5 upon 9. So there are three different temperatures and two different definitions. So either way you can define the temperature, maybe in terms of degree of hotness or coldness, or maybe in terms of direction of the heat flow. It is the property which determines the direction of the heat flow. Now let me explain briefly about moles. Now this is one of the properties of gases, one of the parameters by which you can define the gas. Pressure of a gas, temperature of a gas, moles of a gas, volume of a gas. Okay. So what is meant by a mole? Actually it is, let me tell you just 3 or 4 points regarding mole. We will discuss about mole in very detail in another chapter, that is basic concepts of chemistry. And here I am going to define about the mole briefly, whatever is required for the gaseous state. So in that the first point is, mole is the SI unit of amount of the substance. And its symbol, you see temperature capital T or small t, volume V, pressure P. So like that this mole can be symbolized as MOL. This is the symbol of mole. 1 mole, 2 mole, 3 mole. When you write down 2 mole, so you just write down 2 MOL. So this is the symbol. Now if you come to the definition, mole is the amount of substance, and you see all of you, it is the SI unit of amount of the substance. So mole is the amount of a substance. It can be any substance, gas or liquid or solid, whatever it may be. So amount of a substance which contains same number of particles particles means atoms, molecules or ions or anything else. Even the particles may be electrons, particles may be protons, so whatever it may be. So let me write down here some examples: atoms, molecules, ions, etc. So same number of particles as there are in exactly 12 grams of C12 isotope. Actually, you know what is meant by isotope. Carbon has 3 isotopes, C12, C13, C14. You know, isotopes differ in number of neutrons. Okay. Now, if you take 12 grams of C12 isotope, a particular isotope of carbon, then how many number of carbon atoms are there? That number is experimentally found to be 6.022 into 10 power 23. That particular number of carbon atoms, C12 atoms present in 12 grams of the sample. That is experimentally found to be this much, huge number. Obviously, because mass of each carbon atom is very small. So 12 grams of carbon C12 must contain huge number, huge collection of carbon atoms, no doubt about that. And it is experimentally found to be this much, 10 power 23, 6.022 into 10 power 23. Now mole is defined as the amount of any substance which contains this many number of particles. Suppose 1 mole of water, the amount of water which contains Avogadro number of water molecules, 1 mole of carbon dioxide. It is the amount of carbon dioxide which contains 1 mole, yeah, you can say Avogadro number of CO2 molecules. And this Avogadro number has the unit per mole, mole inverse, this number per mole. That means any substance in which we have these many number of particles is a mole. It is very simple. Okay. Now this is the definition of mole. Now come to the third point. We come across another technical word, that is molar mass. Simply this is mass of 1 mole of a substance. Mass of 1 mole of a substance. And here one more very important point. Molar mass definition is very simple. Molar mass, mass of 1 mole. That is very simple. But this mass of 1 mole of a substance comes out to be its atomic weight or molecular weight in grams. And I will explain that actually how this is true. So molar mass is defined as the mass of 1 mole of a substance, and that is equal to the molecular weight or atomic weight or even the formula weight of a particular substance, that substance in grams. Okay, and units of molar mass is gram per mole if it is in the CGS system. If it is in the SA system, kg per mole, gram per mole, kg per mole. Now let me explain actually how this relation is obtained. Okay, listen to point number 4. Actually here, all of you know atomic weight or molecular weight or even formula weight. The units of atomic weight or molecular weight or formula weight is AMU, atomic mass unit. Now 1 AMU is equal to 1 upon 6.022 into 10 power 23 grams. Now this is the relation between AMU and grams. Now see, for example, if you take one weight of 1 CO2 molecule. Now you know this is nothing but 44 AMU. Weight of 1 CO2 molecule, 44 AMU. Now weight of 1 mole CO2 molecules. And you know in 1 mole CO2 molecules we have Avogadro number of CO2 molecules. So obviously the weight of 1 mole will be 44 AMU into 6.023 into 10 power 23, 6.022 into 10 power 23 per mole. This is the mass of the 1 mole of CO2 molecules in AMU. Now let me convert it into grams. If you want to convert this into grams, you just replace this AMU with this expression. So now it becomes 44 into 1 upon 6.022 into 10 power 23 gram into 6.022 into 10 power 23 per mole. Now it comes out to be 44 gram per mole. This is exactly what I told you about this particular relation. Mass of 1 mole of a substance is nothing but its atomic weight or molecular weight expressed in grams, and that is officially called as molar mass, mass of 1 mole. And this is the relation between gram and AMU. 1 AMU is equal to 1 upon Avogadro number grams. So this is briefly about the moles, whatever is required in the gaseous state. The rest of the information regarding mole we will discuss in another chapter, as I told you already. Now let me give you the details about pressure. Actually, how do you define pressure? Pressure is defined like this. Pressure is equal to force upon area. So if you come to the units, Newton per meter square in SI system. So pressure is the force per unit area. Now let me take a very simple example to differentiate force and pressure. Now suppose for example, this is a table. That is the surface of a table. Now let me keep two identical blocks on the table. They are completely identical to each other. Weight is same, density is same, they are made of same material, volume is same, everything is same. And one of the two blocks is kept like this. You can say on its side. It is kept on the table on its side. So let us say this is block A. Now another identical block is there. I told you already it is identical in every respect to A, but I am keeping this block on its end. Now let me say it is B. So one is kept like this on its side, another one is kept like this on its end. Now here, force exerted by A and B on the table is same. You know, force means weight. Weight is nothing but the force due to gravity. So force exerted by those two blocks on the table surface is same. But pressure exerted by B is greater than that by A. So pressure due to B is greater than the pressure due to A. So it is a force per unit area. And this example nicely illustrates actually the difference between force and pressure. Okay. Now, if you come to, in the next point, if you come to the pressure of a fluid. So what is a fluid? Fluid is any substance that can flow. So liquids come under fluids, gases come under fluids. Now we are going to study about gases, pressure of a gas. So now let me define pressure of a fluid. Initially I will discuss briefly about pressure of a liquid. My first example is liquid, and later I will move on to gas. Okay. Now how do you define pressure of a fluid? Of course, the definition remains the same, but let me write the expression for pressure in a different way. But basically it is same, and I will prove that. So the pressure of a fluid is equal to weight density into depth. You can write height also in the place of depth. See, if you see from bottom to top, this way if you see, you call it as height. But if you see height top to the bottom, then you call it as depth. Both are same. Dimensions are meters, dimensions of length. So weight density into depth. Now, how can we write down weight density? It is nothing but weight upon volume. See, what is meant by mass density? Mass upon volume. What is meant by population density? Population upon area. So similarly, weight density is defined as weight upon volume. And how can you write down depth? Depth can be written as volume upon area. Meter cube upon meter square. So it is nothing but the length, depth or height, whatever it may be. Now, in the place of weight, I can write down force. Weight is nothing but force due to gravity. So force upon volume into volume upon area. Now, it is nothing but equal to force upon area. So it is the weight density into depth. And you see this definition carefully. Pressure does not depend upon the amount of the liquid present. It depends only on its density and depth. More the depth, more is the pressure. More the density, more is the pressure. So depth and density, these two can change pressure. Overall amount does not change the pressure. Pressure is not affected by the amount. Now let me take an example for that. Suppose we have a tube like this. And here we have different shaped vessels. One is like this, cylindrical. Second one is like this, conical, somewhat conical. And third one is like this. Now we have an experimental arrangement like this. Now, for example, now let us take some liquid into it. And let us say the level of the liquid in this particular vessel, and in this particular vessel is this one, the level, and in this particular vessel. That may be any liquid, it can be water also. Now there are two important points here. When you pour liquid into this particular experimental setup, one thing we can observe is the level of water in three differently shaped vessels. It is same, exactly same, the level of water. And the reason is, if you see the pressure here, at the base of that, if you see the pressure here, suppose let us say pressure at that particular place is A, and pressure here is B, and pressure here is C. So pressures at A, B and C, A, B and C are exactly same. But you all know, amount of substance here is lesser, amount of substance here is greater, amounts of substances in those three vessels is different. But pressure does not depend upon that. Pressure is related to, or pressure is determined by the density. Density of the liquid in three vessels is same because this is the same liquid. Liquid is same, so density is same, and height is also same. So when density and height are same, the pressures are same. So pressures at A, B and C, they are same. And as a result, the level of water in three different vessels is also same. That means at this particular place, the pressure from above and pressure from below, that is exactly same. That is the reason why that liquid is in equilibrium. Similarly, here pressure from above and pressure from below is same, and here also pressure from above and pressure from below is also same. So the system is at equilibrium, the levels are same, so the pressures at these particular places are also same. So pressure has nothing to do with the amount of substance. Pressure depends only on the density of the liquid and height of the liquid. More dense the liquid, more is the pressure. For a given density, more the height, more is the pressure. So this is how we can visualize the pressure of a liquid.